Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and it has been quite the day for Niner fans. If you've been at work and haven't been following along, it has been essentially since Saturday up until today, all Brandon Aiyuk trade talk. It started on Saturday, and it's kind of not even going to end tonight, hopefully, but we are going to ask the question: are the San Francisco 49ers going to trade wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk? Today, we're going to talk about recent reports that indicate a deal could be close, and we'll even give you a little bit of inside information about two deals currently rumored to be on the table, which deal San Francisco likes the most, and just how desperate they might be to trade Brandon Aiyuk. But first, we have to ask ourselves, how did we get here? What has led us to this moment of Brandon Aiyuk potentially being traded as close as tonight, as close as right now a deal could get done? So let's go back to pre-April, pre-NFL draft. The San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk believed they were nearing an agreement. They thought that they were going to come to a deal to re-sign and extend Brandon Aiyuk to, I guess what at that point would be the biggest contract ever handed out to a San Francisco 49er receiver. The draft comes. There's deals on the table by multiple teams. A lot of second-round picks are on the table. San Francisco says, no, we are going to hold on to Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel, but we're going to hold on to Brandon Aiyuk, believing a deal is days away, inches away. Then a month after the NFL draft, that's when the receiver market explodes. Jalen Waddle gets a new deal. Amon-Ra St. Brown gets a new deal. And of course, Justin Jefferson gets the largest contract ever in NFL history by a receiver, which then makes Brandon Aiyuk reconsider the Niners' offer of what has been reported to be around $26 million. Aiyuk then comes back to the table. He raises what was his offer to, again, a rumored $30 million, equaling or nearing players like Waddle, St. Brown, and Jefferson. San Francisco refuses to take part, says, nope, we're not doing that deal. We are not going to raise our offer. It's 26 or around $26 million. And we're going to stick there and we're going to play hardball. That is when Brandon Aiyuk began the charade of creating drama to find some leverage. He goes on social media saying, the Niners don't want me. Goes on podcasts publicly saying other teams he'd play for if not the San Francisco 49ers, mainly the Washington Commanders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then after that podcast, Aiyuk calls the team, has a meeting with them. Both parties come together, so again, quote unquote, they can get things off of their chest. And eventually, when no new deal is reached, he reports to training camp effectively holding in. That brings us to this past weekend. Saturday, Cam Marino of NFL Draft Buzz puts on Twitter, in all capital letters, scoop. The Cleveland Browns and the New England Patriots are the most likely trade partners for Brandon Aiyuk. Both teams, the Browns and the Patriots, are offering more than $30 million a year. Although the Steelers are also in the mix, this should come down to the Patriots and the Browns. I quote here, Aiyuk is not expected to be a 49er in 2024. That was Saturday. Yesterday, Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, one of the most tied in tune people out there in the Browns organization, reports the Browns could be in the mix for Niners receiver Brandon Aiyuk. The Browns could afford to pay Aiyuk if wide receiver Amari Cooper were dealt to San Francisco in a trade. Then Matt Mayoko, one of the most in-the-know people inside the Niners organization in that building at Levi Stadium, Niners HQ, He says, and I quote here, "It appears more likely than ever that the Niners are willing to make a trade. It might be up to Aiyuk to determine the next move." In the same article, Mayoko says the Patriots are another logical trade partner after the Browns. The Patriots could offer former Niner receiver Kendrick Bourne as part of a trade that includes an enticing package of 2025 draft picks. That brings us to today. So a lot of rumors, speculation, things could be heating up. What's transpiring? What's new? How did we get here? That's everything that's led us to today. Because this morning, we got another just bang news report, rumor right in our faces. And it was essentially that the Niners and the Pittsburgh Steelers have come to an agreement on a trade involving Brandon Aiyuk. Now, since then, that was by Cam Marino. Since then, everyone's losing their minds. Did San Francisco just trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Pittsburgh Steelers? How does that make sense? Pittsburgh of all places, not Washington. You want to get Amari Cooper? This doesn't make any sense. No other big names are reporting this. Just Cam Marino, okay? Then a bunch of other reporters come out. A bunch of them. Mainly Mike Garafolo, and says this: "It seems more likely Brandon Aiyuk will be traded rather than working out an extension with the San Francisco 49ers. Multiple teams are in play for Aiyuk and have been granted permission to speak with his agent on a contract extension, but a deal is not in place at this time." So no, as of 5:38 p.m. on the West Coast, Brandon Aiyuk has yet to be traded. But we are now in what I'm going to call the danger zone. We are nearing the goal line. We are nearing the end point of the Brandon Aiyuk contract negotiations. This is Michael Jackson's "This Is It." This is the ending of this negotiating period. Things are coming to a head where San Francisco has tried to get Brandon Aiyuk to bring his asking price down. Aiyuk has tried to have San Francisco bring their asking price up. Nobody's budging. This is a staring contest and nobody's blinking. And at this point, and not to be a Adam Schefter or Mike Garafolo or try to be an insider, I'm no rap sheet, but I asked a few people, what's going on in San Francisco? What's happening here? And I was told this, that there are two deals reportedly on the table. One by the New England Patriots, a deal that includes a handful of draft picks, and depending on what transpires with Matthew Judon, could involve Matthew Judon coming to San Francisco. Now again, do I believe that's entirely true? Not exactly, but it's what I was told. Now let's discuss that potential trade package. Draft picks and Matthew Judon. Matthew Judon currently has a $14 million cap hit, eerily similar to Aiyuk's fifth-year option cap hit, but he's also looking for a new contract. The issue is, he's an edge rusher. Yes, San Francisco values edge rushers. Yes, I am one to say San Francisco needs to add in that room, but he is going to want to get paid a high-value contract, and rightfully so. He has 32 sacks in 38 games as a New England Patriot and nearly 67 career sacks with the Ravens and the Patriots combined. He's one of the most productive pass rushers in football in the last 10 years. That said, San Francisco already gave money to Leonard Floyd, who they expect to start opposite Nick Bosa, and they already gave money to Yetur Gross-Matos, who they hope to play a big role in their defense. Judon is also coming off a torn bicep, and he's currently holding in after he was initially holding out in New England. So that one's a little fishy to me. Don't think it works, although I do think San Francisco will eventually, whether it's in the offseason or in the pre-trade deadline weeks go acquire an edge rusher. But that is one offer I was told is apparently on the table. Matthew Judon and a handful of picks. Do I believe that entirely? No, just what I was told. Then I was told the Pittsburgh Steelers have offered multiple draft picks. But here's the thing. What the New England Patriots can offer is just that. What the Pittsburgh Steelers can only offer is just that. Draft picks. When you talk to teams like the Patriots, if the deal I was told that was on the table is accurate, which again, I don't know, I would much rather have Matthew Judon and picks than just draft picks. Even if it is a first-round pick, I need to have somebody coming back to San Francisco that can help us win now. And if you are San Francisco and you make a deal with the Patriots or the Steelers or whoever else is out there, the Commanders, right? And you're only getting draft picks back, you are actively hurting your chances of winning this year. You're helping yourself in 1 year time, but the time to trade for draft picks was 4 months ago in April. Not today. Not today. A draft pick in 2025 that will likely not even see the field does not help you win a Super Bowl today, this year. In what's considered the last dance of this roster as a whole, if you walk away with Brandon Aiyuk going elsewhere for 3 draft picks, a second rounder, a third rounder, and a fifth rounder, you lose that trade, at least in this year. You're not punting on the season, but you're not maximizing the season. And if you are Super Bowl or bust, you're essentially punting on the season, saying, you know what, we'll trade you now, when you're not going to get the package you would have 4 months ago. San Francisco's leverage in trades with other teams is far less than what it was months ago, which is why trading Brandon Aiyuk is just, it's almost it's almost laughable of like, how did you mishandle this so poorly? How did you get to a point in August in training camp? This is what, 6 days away, 5 days away from week 1 of the preseason. And not having a deal done is fine. This thing can linger for 2 more weeks for all I care. But then openly saying, hey, we got to trade this guy, and then be taking calls and actively shopping him, what is your leverage with Pittsburgh? Hey, you can keep Brandon Aiyuk, that's fine. And yes, it'll still take a lot to pry him out of your hands, but it's not like you can ask for a king's ransom. That said, there's a reported other offer on the table, which involves the Cleveland Browns. The deal that I was told is Amari Cooper and multiple draft picks, which could be a second-round draft pick per Matt Mayoko, for Brandon Aiyuk. Now, here's the kicker. Amari Cooper, entering the final year of his current contract, is going to be 30 years old. So a 30-year-old receiver entering the final year of his contract, where last year he caught 72 passes for over 1,200 passing yards, or receiving yards, and 5 total touchdowns. In the last 7 years, in 7 of his 9 years in the NFL, has over 1,000 yards. Yes, this is the deal I would make because it gives you an instant starting wide receiver to keep their win now window open. It also allows Ricky Pearsall, this past year's first-round pick, to remain in his current role as the 4th string receiver. He can play slot, he can play outside. It gives him 1 year to grow into a system where you hope next year he can be a bona fide star, or at least a starter, in your offense. Cooper's contract also gives San Francisco further cap flexibility, only having an $8.7 million cap hit, nearly half of Brandon Aiyuk's 5th-year option. And they could also let Cooper walk in free agency, which would probably net them a 3rd-round compensation pick. So you'd walk away with multiple draft picks, 1 year of Amari Cooper, and potentially, if Cooper walks in free agency, if you don't want to re-sign him, another 3rd-round draft pick. This, to me, if it's still on the table, is the perfect deal for San Francisco. You maximize Cooper for a year, and you'll walk away with a handful of picks and what could be a second-round pick and a third-round pick at the least. But I was told this. Brandon Aiyuk was told that this offer was on the table. They had a deal in place to trade Aiyuk to Cleveland, and he said, nope, I will not re-sign with the Cleveland Browns, essentially erasing them as a suitor. Yes, they can try to rework things and figure out something else, but Brandon Aiyuk essentially said, I will not extend my contract in Cleveland, effectively telling the Browns, sorry, he will not go play for you, taking the Cooper and draft picks offer off the table. And it's funny because we're here today not entirely knowing what's going on outside of it looks like San Francisco's talking to multiple teams, including Pittsburgh, including the Browns and New England and maybe others, on a potential trade of Brandon Aiyuk, which what I think would be the ultimate fumble of the Niners front office. You can make fun of them for DeForest Buckner, fine. They at least got a first-round pick for him, which ended up being a bust in itself in Javon Kinlaw, but they moved off of Buckner at the right time if you're ever going to do that. After the Super Bowl, pre-NFL draft, and gave them time to scout players, figure out who they were going to pick, and got them back in the first round or higher in the first round, which, funny enough, in that exact same draft class was Brandon Aiyuk. A few years later, 4 years later, you have now almost done the inverse of this. You think everything's fine. It's almost like San Francisco was blindsided by not getting a deal done. In fact, I think they completely were blindsided not getting a deal done by now. They believed a deal was going to be done in April. They thought, okay, post-draft, once we don't trade Aiyuk, things are going to get done. Then everything went to hell. Receivers got paid higher than they expected. They were at a loss for words, and what did? They sat on their hands and said, we're going to wait this thing out. Well, Brandon Aiyuk doesn't mind waiting as well. Now, again, the Niners trading Aiyuk would effectively, it's not going to ruin their entire year. They're going to win a handful of games without Brandon Aiyuk if they do trade him, which in fact, let's say this now, they could still keep Brandon Aiyuk. It's more likely they trade him, but doesn't mean they also can't keep him. Keep that in mind. Aiyuk is not gone. He is still a Niner until he's not a Niner. Now, you have to read tea leaves, and where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes, and it seems like as of today, things are leaning heavily towards him being a Pittsburgh Steeler, but I do have to question. If you are the Niners, you clearly do not want to trade Brandon Aiyuk to the NFC. You don't want to have him anywhere near potentially hurting you in the regular season. You don't want to worry about him being on the other sideline in a pivotal game, but you are happily and hoping to trade him to the AFC, mainly a team you're likely not going to have to play for 3 more seasons. You played him last year, how things rotate, you're probably not going to have to play the Pittsburgh Steelers for 3 more years, which at that point, Aiyuk will probably not even be a Steeler in 3 years if things go the way they're currently going. But what you do not and cannot do is call up a team like Washington. Washington's not going to give you McLaurin and a 3rd-round pick. They're going to laugh you off the table because they know what is San Francisco's leverage here to other teams. San Francisco has leverage in contract negotiations with Brandon Aiyuk. They do not have leverage in trade negotiations with other teams. And funny enough, for all the talk we did during the offseason negotiating period and covering this whole thing, we all said Aiyuk has no leverage, and he doesn't until now when a trade became a real possibility. Yes, again, in contract negotiations, Aiyuk has no leverage. But while the Niners still do want to re-sign Brandon Aiyuk, let's not forget that. San Francisco wants to re-sign Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a Niner. I don't think Aiyuk asked for a trade seriously. We talked about how, for as bad as it looks now for San Francisco to botch this thing, Aiyuk also botched his entire negotiation strategy. He didn't really want to get traded, but I don't think he's bluffing either. That if he has to go, he will. Does he want to? No. Sometimes there are a lot of things you don't want to do, but you have to, right? You have to say goodbye sometimes to better yourself. Other teams are going to pay Aiyuk $4 to $6 million more than San Francisco would. And if he can go to an offense, maybe like Pittsburgh, maybe, let's say it's a team like New England or Cleveland, they'll pay him more, and he'll be the number one receiver on all three of those teams. He's better than George Pickens. He'll replace Amari Cooper if that's still a deal they can make. In New England, he'd be the clear-cut number one for a rebuilding team. But you have to ask, deep down inside, where does Aiyuk actually want to be traded to? Now, there's a clear answer here. He wants to go to the Commanders. San Francisco's not going to do business with them, I believe. I don't believe San Francisco would actually call up Adam Peters and be like, look, he wants out. He's playing hard to get. We can't resign him. What will you give us for him? They're not going to do that. What they would do, and this is where Aiyuk's leverage comes in, because they, again, had a deal in place, or at least on the table, Amari Cooper and a draft pick for Aiyuk. Aiyuk said no. It doesn't matter what the Niners, it doesn't matter which trade offer they like, which deal they're willing to accept for Aiyuk. All Aiyuk has to say is, I don't like Cleveland. I don't like Baltimore. I don't like Texas. That's all he has to say. And the Niners say, well, what can we do? Now, in that, Aiyuk can force San Francisco's hand. Aiyuk can easily tell San Francisco, no, I'm going nowhere. I don't want to play for this team and that team. All the teams that San Francisco is reportedly talking to, Aiyuk can say no to every single one of them. And guess what? You know what happens? They come to a deal in a month. Aiyuk's last stand is essentially vetoing every single trade in hopes to remain a San Francisco 49er. Because I'll tell you what, San Francisco does not want Aiyuk reporting to camp every single day, in meetings, doing everything outside of practicing and playing, because they still have to pay him. That's what you don't want. Aiyuk can fake an injury. Oh, it's working out elsewhere. I'm on the PUP list now. Still got to pay him. There's a way Aiyuk can wiggle his way into getting paid and not playing still. And San Francisco's not going to play that game. This is the last stand. Now, yes, could a deal come to fruition? Sure. I would have to ask, what could San Francisco, the Niners could essentially get back an A-plus deal from Cleveland, Amari Cooper and some draft picks. That's a win-win for both teams. San Francisco gets a draft pick and a star receiver for a year with a chance to either re-sign him or let him go for extra picks in the compensatory rounds. The Patriots could essentially offer you Matthew Judon and some picks, give you an edge rusher, a star with the high cap hit who wants a new deal. There's a way to maneuver to convince San Francisco, hey, Cleveland makes sense, New England makes sense. What would San Francisco, if San Francisco came to an agreement right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, what would they get back in return? Because, again, if you just get draft picks, like Laurie Matthews says, they don't help you win a Super Bowl this season. What do you get? Oh, we got a 2025 third-round pick and a fifth-round pick and a 2026 second-round pick. What do you win at that point? You're weakening your team. You're asking Pearsall and Jennings, mainly Pearsall, to become your receiver number 2 or 3 day one, which I think he could be your slot guy, but he's struggling against Lenore in press coverage during training camp. He's a rookie. He'll progress. But as of right now, while you hope Pearsall can be Aiyuk and even better, mainly as a slot guy, and go back to the draft. When they picked Pearsall, yes, was it protection in case they wanted to move Debo? Yes. In case they wanted to trade Aiyuk? Yes. But it also was a luxury pick that, hey, the plan is to re-sign Brandon Aiyuk and keep Debo Samuel here. And we'll have Pearsall for a year. If not, and we'll have all these guys together for a year, if not longer than that. In a perfect world, you're having Aiyuk and Debo and Pearsall together for 2 years. You're having a sophomore year Pearsall and an in his prime Aiyuk and although older, still 29-year-old Debo Samuel. That can give you something still, right? And Debo comes into camp in the greatest shape we've ever seen him in. Pearsall's hurt early, but has shown some stuff, although struggled at times too. And Aiyuk's up there dabbing up Kyle and John, not practicing. San Francisco drafted Pearsall, at least in my opinion, with the understanding of we're going to have 2 guys, Aiyuk and Pearsall, that can separate against the best of them, that can give us at least one open receiver every single play. Debo's doing the underneath stuff. Aiyuk and Pearsall are the separators to beat press and man coverage. And Jennings is that third down, bigger bodied slot receiver to give us first downs. Didn't even mention Kittle. Didn't even mention Christian McCaffrey. If you trade Aiyuk, you actively weaken your roster. And you're asking rookies to step up, which maybe they can, maybe they can't. It's a big ask. And at this moment, on August 5th, 2024, I would not ask Ricky Pearsall to be my Brandon Aiyuk. I wouldn't ask Judon Jennings to be my number 2 receiver. 1 week they can do it, sure. A whole season? I don't think so. Because imagine this. Okay, injuries happen, right? But for injuries and Debo Samuel, the last couple years, they've lingered. He's missed a handful of games. Imagine if you trade Aiyuk away, Debo gets hurt for an extended period of time. You're relying on Judon Jennings, who I love, but certainly fits the mold of a third down, bigger slot that can, essentially your tight end number 2, that plays a role that fits the way his play style and what this offense wants to be him, to a T. You're not going to ask Judon to go play outside. Pearsall, you prefer to be on the inside, but he can play outside, sure. But would you be comfortable walking into a game, let's say against the Chiefs, against the Bills and the Packers in December, with Jennings, Pearsall, Conley, Cowing, Danny Gray, Ronnie Bell, Trent Taylor? No. Nobody would. Sure, that grouping is better than other teams' backups by far, but you actively weaken your roster and your receiver group, which is really deep right now, but you actively weaken it. Right now you have protection there. If you trade Aiyuk, that protection is gone. Once, you hope not, but fingers crossed, Debo gets hurt because it happens every year. Now again, Debo's in great shape, looks better, stronger, faster. That's all great stuff, but the season hasn't even started yet. But again, I ask, if Aiyuk is dead set on the only team I'll go to, which it seems like the one team to have this connection to Brandon Aiyuk is the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's the only team he'll go to, okay. What could San Francisco get back worth anything? You're going to ask for an offensive lineman? Why? You have Aaron Banks. You just drafted Dominic Pooney. You're going to re-sign Trent. You have John Feliciano. You have Jake Bendel. You got Colt McKivitz. Right now, you have the deepest offensive line group in regards to depth you ever have. You brought back your entire starting 5. You have Burford, who started plenty of games last year, and you drafted a guy in the 3rd round. Well, that doesn't make sense. Pittsburgh's not going to give you Troy Fontenot, the first-round pick this year. They got to protect Russ and Justin Fields. There's no way. On defense, they're not going to give you TJ Watt. They're not going to give you Alex Highsmith. They don't have any linebackers worth a damn. And you're not getting Joey Porter Jr. when you already have Travis Ward and Lenore you have to pay after this year. They're not going to give you Minkah Fitzpatrick. There's no way. There's no way. The only deal I can see the Niners and Pittsburgh making is draft picks. And if you do that, this is worse than trading DeForest Buckner. Because, again, you could have evaluated that year's draft class, which they did. And they didn't make a great pick on, but at least it gave them time to evaluate that draft class. That draft class. And even then, Stephen A., and I get what you're saying, they have Patrick Queen. They ain't trading Patrick Queen. They just signed him to a big deal this offseason. Poached him from the Ravens. They're not trading him away. If you trade Aiyuk, this is a bigger botch than trading Buckner away. You have to wait a whole year, if it's just picks, to get dividends from that. That's not what you do for star players. That would be like San Francisco right now. Again, trading Aiyuk for picks next year or in two, whatever it'll be. You have to play out a whole season, whereas the whole year you hear, you know what would have helped there? Brandon Aiyuk. You know what could have helped you win that game that you lost 24-27? Oh, guess what? Brandon Aiyuk. Playoff game against the Lions. Oh man. You know what could help against the Lions defense? A guy that can separate consistently. Oh, who's that? Brandon Aiyuk. Go back and watch the playoffs. They don't win any of those games without Brandon Aiyuk. Now again, it doesn't mean other guys can't step up, but you're instantly weakening a team. You are openly admitting to saying, hey, we got to be good. And sure, can Purdy pick up some slack? Yes. Can McCaffrey be better than Offensive Player of the Year? Probably not, but you can be similar to that. San Francisco would still win 10 games without Brandon Aiyuk. But you're going from division winner, potential number 1 seed, to wild card 5th seed, having to go on the road a lot of times and win. You don't want to be that. This is an older team. Has young players, but Trent's older, Fred's a little older, Debo's a little older. The last thing you'd want to do is go to a place like Detroit on the road in the playoffs. Green Bay, frozen tundra. I get it. They already did it in 2021. That's great. New team, new offense. You don't know what Jordan Love is just yet. Hey, Rodgers is gone. You don't want to play in Green Bay in January? You have to do everything you can to maximize the window. That includes paying Trent Williams and paying Brock Purdy and paying Lenore and Mooney Ward. And yes, you can't pay everybody, but you have the funds to pay Brandon Aiyuk. You have the money. And I'm not even saying pay him what he wants. I'm just saying it might behoove both parties. San Francisco, don't trade him. Aiyuk, sit on your hands. You've already waited 8 months, 7 months to trade the guy. Just keep waiting him out. It's not going to get any worse. And it's not going to get any better in regards to trade offers. Like, man. And here's the thing. I whether it's T or Tay, they say, I'll take Judon, Bourne, New England's first or second. Just get it over with. I'm already tired. You're not getting New England's first or a second Judon and Bourne. There's no way. Why would the Patriots do that? Okay, look, there is a world I can see them giving up Judon, an expiring contract, veteran piece coming off a torn bicep, and a second-round pick. Similar to Amari Cooper, right? Older player, expiring contract, you bring a guy in. But here's the thing. Why would Aiyuk want to go play with New England? Why would he want to go play with Cleveland? He already said no to Cleveland. He vetoed a trade to Cleveland already. He's not going to want to go play for New England. And once New England, whoever it is, hears they don't want to play for you, they're going to rescind any offer on the table, or it's going to be less or so. So unfortunately, this is where Aiyuk has San Francisco by the gonads. Like, either trade me for way less than you want to, for let's say a second round pick, and that's it. San Francisco turned down second round picks in the draft. In the draft for Aiyuk. There are reports that the Jaguars offered the number 17th overall pick for Aiyuk, and they said no. Now, is that true? I have no idea. It was rumor, but it was out there. The same people with those rumors are saying a trade's going through tonight or tomorrow. Like, San Francisco, I don't think botched negotiations in regards to paying Aiyuk, but they didn't have the foresight to see, oh crap, if we have to trade him, he'll just tell the opposition no. Because at that point, they're not going to want to franchise tag him for 2 years in a row. They're going to want to extend him, lower the cap hit, especially for younger teams with young quarterbacks like New England. They're going to want to extend Aiyuk, lower his cap hit, man, like, this is the thing, and it's like, Clay Young says, Sterling, I think fans are forgetting BA has to sign an extension if he says to the team acquiring him, no, trades off. Exactly, that's the thing. And it's like, and it's funny because in the draft, San Francisco seemed only willing to trade a top 10 pick for Aiyuk. If anything, they wanted that number 9 pick of the Bears to get Rome Odunze. Bears wouldn't budge. Made sense on their end. Why would you do that? After the Bears picked Odunze, there was nobody else San Francisco saw replacing Aiyuk with. Pearsall, for having very similar play styles, Pearsall is not here to replace Brandon Aiyuk. It's in my opinion that had Deebo Samuel not come into camp in the greatest shape ever, we'd probably having a different conversation. But ultimately, San Francisco, and I think this is their best hand, their best play is to just go, oh, Pittsburgh's calling, don't answer. Just don't answer. Nothing you get from any of these teams now is going to give you what you're going to get from Brandon Aiyuk. You can complain about paying him, and I'm sure it's about guaranteed money. He wants to have more than just 1 year guaranteed because San Francisco likes to work these things where, they'll give you a 5-year deal, give you a 4-year deal, but after year 2, that guaranteed money is half of what it was in the first 2 years, meaning they can move off of you. San Francisco likely wants to do the exact same thing with Brandon Aiyuk, like they did with Deebo Samuel. Oh, I'll give you a 5-year deal, but in 3 years we can get out of it, right? That's this year. That's next year for Deebo. Deebo, despite being in the penultimate year of his contract, it's a contract year for him. And Aiyuk sitting back like I saw this happen to Kittle and Fred and Juszczyk, now Deebo. Like, I got to get mine. And it's like, man, like, where the Niners sit now is a cause of their own doing for sure. That needs to be established. San Francisco didn't have the foresight, didn't look ahead enough. San Francisco sat on their hands long enough, and Aiyuk openly said they haven't even had, they didn't offer him a deal for 2 months. Why? This is the unfortunate part. And look, it's really smart to play hardball sometimes. People will blink. People are going to blink. I said the entire time Aiyuk has no leverage in negotiating contracts, not negotiating trades. He has all the leverage in what has become one of the more surprising, flip of the coins here. Because as of right now, no deal's happening. But we have people which, whether they're valid or not, Schefter said nothing. Rappaport said nothing. Garofalo and Pelissero said they're talking to teams. They're open to trading him more than ever, but nothing is imminent. And I think that's the part that frustrates me, is that what should be imminent more than anything is a contract extension, not a trade. let's say you make a deal with the Commanders. Cool. Aiyuk wants to be there. What are they going to give you? We talked about 3 deals they had. It was like Dynami Brown and a second-round pick, or Dynami Brown for a second-round pick to San Francisco. Why? Why do you want Dynami Brown? We know what Brandon Aiyuk wants. He wants money. That's obvious. But he also wants to get the ball more. He wants the respect of being a number 1 receiver. It's never going to happen here, unfortunately. But if Debo's gone in 1 year's time, maybe it does. This offense has become more pass-centric over time, although it's funny. Aiyuk saying he wants to go to Washington and wants to go to Pittsburgh. Arthur Smith is there in Pittsburgh, and yes, they have Mike Tomlin, but Arthur Smith's calling plays. And it's like, like, that's not a pass-first offense. It's a run-first offense. With Najee Harris and Jalen Warren out there, like, you're not going to get what you're looking for in Pittsburgh with Russ and Justin Fields and a revolving door at quarterback. Whereas it's like, what's going on? New England, rookie quarterback, new head coach, there's no stability there. Drake May could be a bust for all we know. You want to go to the Commanders? Great. Young quarterback, a rookie, albeit they're best friends. But are the Commanders going to be a pass-first team with Dan Quinn as a head coach? No. No freaking way. That's a run-first team with the young quarterback. They're not throwing the ball a billion times. It's going to be, like, Aiyuk's production will dip everywhere he goes. That's been talked about. Maybe outside of Cleveland, but even then, Deshaun Watson sucks. Deshaun Watson's a shell of his former self, and maybe rightfully so for what he, rumored to have done. But it's like, Cleveland, you're not going to be, you'll be the number 1 on paper. You're not going to be the number 1 in the box score. Like, you're going to be a star receiver on a bad team of the Patriots, the Browns, the Steelers, the Commanders. Like, there's no good team willing to give San Francisco what they want and what Aiyuk wants. And that's why I think the staring contest should continue. Call his bluff. You don't have to trade Aiyuk today. You don't have to trade him tomorrow. The best thing sometimes is space. When things get rough and tough and you fight and you get angry, and sometimes walking away then reconvening is a great thing. The receiver coach, Leonard Hankerson, said today, Aiyuk's been great in every meeting, talking with the boys, great with the coaching staff. It's not like Aiyuk is doing anything inside the building to piss anybody off. He's not arguing. He's not fighting. Aiyuk simply showing up to work, just not playing. So I know things are hot and a trade might go through, but it's August 5th, not February 10th. Like, it's not even week 1 of the preseason. Sure, they can pay him what he wants. Pittsburgh can. They can. That's great. The difference is, I would take Titans Ryan Tannehill, Steven, over Russell Wilson and Justin Fields today. At least passing the football, you at least know what you're getting from Tannehill, or at least you knew what you were getting from Tannehill. Fields is a mess, at least he was with the Bears, which could change. Russ was terrible, and the way Russ plays and the way Justin Fields play do not match Brandon Aiyuk's play style. Does not match the, quick stuff, the slants, the out routes, the comebackers. It's much more of a deep game. The reason why the Broncos got rid of Russell Wilson, yes, he had problems with, Sean Payton. But from a play style standpoint, Payton was opening up everything underneath for him, and he wasn't taking the slants, the easy stuff that get you a first and a second and 4 instead of a first or second and 12 because you take a sack. Russ is kind of cooked, if you want to put it that way. Fields is undercooked at this point in his career. Honestly, the best situation for both these parties, Niners and Aiyuk, is just nobody blink. You wanna be in an old, Western standoff, you want to draw your guns? Fine, draw your guns. Nobody shoot though. Why would you? You don't have to. Ayuk's not forcing your hand. He's just upset because you won't give him money. It's funny. I think Aiyuk cares about the money more than being Devontae Adams. The more you win, mainly playoff games, usually it doesn't matter as much. There's a reason why players like Kyle Juszczyk take pay cuts and Kittle's taking pay cuts and Warner's taking pay cuts. It's not like, and here's the big thing for me, is that it's not as if once San Francisco pays Brandon Aiyuk, they're not going to ask him for a pay cut in 2 years, because of course they are. He's going to restructure that contract 3 different times over the course of it. It's not as if Ayuk's contract is going to remain untouched if he signs one. They've touched everyone's contract. Purdy's, Trent's, Fred's, Mooney Ward's, Kittle's a handful of times, Kyle Juszczyk. It's not like the money's set in, it's not set in stone. The money's fluid throughout the entirety of the contract. And so I think, Armstead too, same thing. Stephen A asks here, do you believe he will sit out games if he doesn't get extended? See, that's where leverage kind of flips back into San Francisco's end, because I believe if he doesn't play, he could fake an injury, sure, and be on the PUP list and not get fined. But if he's healthy and doesn't play, he doesn't get the accrued season, putting him right back into the exact same place he is this year, wanting a trade or wanting an extension. So it's not like him sitting out benefits him unless he's injured or faking an injury. That's the only case it does. Lori Matthews says, grass is always greener on the other side. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah, the grass isn't always greener, Lori. You're right. You're right. Trust me, I moved from Northern California where it was green and the weather was great. We had all 4 seasons. We had summer, we had winter, we had spring, we had fall. And I moved my butt to Hesperia in Southern California with my wife. And it's desert and 110 degrees still. It ain't always greener, man. And Kenny, we're watering the grass every single night. It's still brown, brother. Grass isn't always greener in Pittsburgh. Like, Aiyuk openly said he wants to win. He wants to get money. You'll get money with the Commanders and the Patriots and Washington and Pittsburgh. You ain't gonna win. Which team willing to pay Aiyuk's contract is openly contending for a Super Bowl would be my question. And the one to Aiyuk. Okay, Brandon, let's sit down. You want to get traded? Cool. We have 3 teams that want you and your services. They'll pay you $32 million a year. They'll pay you $30 million. Exactly what you want. Okay? Exactly what you want. Pittsburgh, they want you. Cleveland, they want you. The Patriots, they want you. Okay? You want to go to Cleveland? Cool. How's that quarterback out there? Who knows? Nick Chubb off the injury? How are things going to work in a new system? Although it is Stefanski, mind you, but a run-first system. Very similar to us, Brandon, and not as good. You're playing the Steelers defense twice a year, the Ravens defense twice a year, and the Bengals twice a year. You're probably going to be in near last place. Same thing for Pittsburgh. Oh, they haven't had a losing season since Tomlin got there. Oh my, which I love Mike Tomlin. You make the wild card with Mason Rudolph, then you get bounced. It's not like the Steelers are set up for success. They're set up for 500. That's it. Steelers are a potential playoff team. Cleveland's a potential playoff team. New England's a potential bottom 5 team. San Francisco, as of the known suitors, are the only Super Bowl and playoff, almost bona fide guaranteed team willing to pay Aiyuk near what he wants. So, Brandon, where do you want to be? The Bay, which you love. You live here. You want to relocate to Pittsburgh? You want to relocate to Cleveland? You want to relocate to New England? It's cold out there, Brandon. Oh, it snows. You're from Arizona, brother. You want to be where it snows? I don't know. Like, I get Brandon wants to get paid. Cool. I get that. I get when the Niners offer you $26 million and the other team offers you $30, it makes you more willing to pay or to play. Totally get that. And look, Aiyuk needs to get paid. He deserves to get paid. But when you hear their offers on the table, like Amari Cooper and a second-round pick to San Francisco for Aiyuk, as a Niner fan, I'm like, heck yeah, brother, sign me up. Ayuk's like, nah, I'm good. Where this is the one part where Aiyuk can screw San Francisco, either holding in, continuing what he's doing, go to practice and not get fined and wait to staying out, or saying the only team I'll go to is the Steelers, in which they have nothing to offer you worth of value. They're not giving you Washington and Pickens, and they're not going to give you Troy Fontenot. They're not going to give you TJ Watt or Cam Hayward. They don't even have the talent worth giving Aiyuk up for. That's the issue. Here's the thing. The Patriots have a couple players they could trade that would make up for Aiyuk's loss, whether it's Matthew Judon, Kendrick Bourne would certainly help in a package deal to Mario Douglas. There are some people you can look at and say they're enticing along with draft picks. Amari Cooper in Cleveland makes sense, obviously, right? But Pittsburgh only has draft picks to offer. And Pittsburgh needs to add Aiyuk to the roster. The Patriots don't. The Browns truly don't. Like, if the Browns were smart, why trade for Aiyuk? Just keep Amari Cooper. Wait to see how things play out, right? But again, nothing has transpired so far. And I'll even check Twitter right now. Nothing has transpired so far. And nor should it. You know, they're offering Dan Moore and this, that, and the other. It's like, in fact, San Francisco just signed Matt Breida. Again, it's re-signed Matt Breida. Nothing on Brandon Aiyuk. Not a single thing. Bad news for Isaac Grendo, I'll say, but nothing. So I get we're kind of in a tizzy today of like, what's happening with Brandon Aiyuk? The best thing will be nothing. Bourne doesn't move the needle. Dan Moore and James Daniels and even George Pickens, who's a great receiver. Would that even move the needle for you in this offense? And I like George Pickens to a certain degree. I'd much rather have Aiyuk. It's not like San Francisco needs to trade him. Mainly tonight. I think that's what I'm getting at, is that, yes, we're kind of in, DEFCON, was it 5? Is that the most abrasive one? I mean, maybe it's 1. Whatever the dangerous one is, right? Where it's like, oh my goodness, DEFCON 1 through 5, whatever we're at. It's not like San Francisco has to do a freaking thing. They can take calls. Sure. They've been taking calls for months. They do not, and in my opinion, should not trade Aiyuk. Call his bluff. That is the last thing you can do. Call his bluff, see what he does. If he's that serious about trading or wanting to get traded, fine. Cool. Then you can figure something else out. But the longer this thing plays out, the longer they call his bluff, nothing changes for San Francisco here. Not a single thing. And, it's funny to see, Aiyuk tried to conjure up so much leverage for so long, and now he finally has it. But it's not like it's enough to force anything. You can say no and no and no to trades all you want, to contracts all you want too. But the way San Francisco can reclaim leverage is by holding out and making him have to sit out games. Because if it happens, they get to either fine him or he doesn't get the accrued season. That's where San Francisco gets their leverage back. week 1 without Aiyuk would stink. Week 2, week 3, week 4 without Aiyuk would stink. But if you have him for week 5 and the rest of the year on a brand new contract, is that bad? If you trade Aiyuk away, it's far worse than what could have been. But yes, Lori, the Niners did sign Matt Breida just now. And no, Kenny, I would not say it's by Elijah Mitchell. I would say that's a bad sign for Isaac Guerendo's hamstring. That's what I'd point to. He hasn't practiced in over, 2 weeks now? Not good. Not good at all. But what do you guys think about Brandon Aiyuk? What should the Niners do? What will they do? It kind of feels like things are kind of stuck in the mud. Are they going to trade him? I don't think so. Should they? No. That would be a terrible look and a massive loss for this offense. It would go against everything you told us. Everything you told us. You would actively hurt your chances to win this year. Yes, you have Purdy. But still. Yes, you have McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle and Pearsall and Jennings. You have all these weapons still. You want to have a surplus, right? Re-sign Aiyuk. Before we go today, though, I do want to shout out our sponsor, Sports Spider. Wanted to let you know Sports Spider is a place where if you're tired of searching multiple websites for sporting news, you're on ESPN, you're on Niners Web Zone, you're on Fox, you're on whatever else you look at, Sports Illustrated, go to sportspider.com. They are going to have you covered with the latest articles, videos, podcasts from all around the web, organized by your favorite team. If you want to stay up to date as possible on our San Francisco 49ers, hit the link in the description down below and check out sportspider.com. And I'll tell you what, every single article they got is about Brandon Aiyuk right now. Everyone's talking about Brandon Aiyuk. Everybody. But as of where things stand right now, it does seem like the San Francisco 49ers will indeed trade Brandon Aiyuk. I would say it's probably an 85% chance they trade Brandon Aiyuk. In the 15% chance, he returns to San Francisco. The door is not closed on a return to San Francisco. It's just, does San Francisco have the patience to wait this thing out? Because I was sent a text today, and I'll read it to you, and I'll leave you with this. I got a text today from somebody, and I asked, what's going on with Aiyuk? And the text said, the Niners want him gone ASAP. Which, that was early in the morning. So we'll see what transpires as the night continues and into the next few days. And the next morning or so, we shall see if Aiyuk remains a Niner. If he does, if he doesn't, Kyle Shanahan talks tomorrow before practice. So it'll be really interesting to see what Coach Kyle has to say about the updates and rumors on his star receiver, Brandon Aiyuk. In San Francisco practices tomorrow, so come right back here, this YouTube channel, and this podcast for the next coverage of Niners practice. If you could, leave a like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that bell notification the next time we go live. As Bobo says, I don't think Aiyuk and Kyle will be hugging tomorrow. Probably not. Thinking a firm handshake, maybe a glance or two, maybe a smirk if you're lucky. But hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and if you're listening or watching on the audio podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast, give us a subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to see your Niners play with or without Brandon Aiyuk this season, go to SeatGeek.com and use our promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS for $20 off your first purchase. The link is down below in the description. My name is Sterling Bennett, sitting, biting my breath to see what happens with Brandon Aiyuk. But as always, until next time, thank you to Lori Matthews, thank you to Rob Smith, Stephen A., Kenny 49ers, Bobo was in here as well, Taylor T, Papa J, Fluffy Ninja. Thank you guys so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving that review. My name is Sterling Bennett, and as always, stay faithful.